Hi, my name is Rita Pederson, and I am running for school board in the Owen J. Roberts School District.
So, school boards are the foundation of our community. They are the community's voice in public education, and in many ways, they are our first entry into civics. However, when election time comes around, there's often very little coverage about the candidates and the office itself. Therefore, Indivisible and Chester County Marching Forward have come together to introduce some of the candidates that are running for school board director this year. Thanks for taking time out of your evening, Rita, and joining me in this conversation.
I appreciate all the work you guys are doing to get this information out there. So thank you very much.
So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
And given all of the public discourse in recent months, what about being a school board director is exciting or inspiring to you?
So my mom was a public school teacher. My mom, actually both my parents, but my mom particularly, it was her career. It was her passion. And I watched the dedication she had to her students and her community as a high school English teacher. And our mom always taught us, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And just as you said, in this time of upsetment and upheaval and discourse, I feel like if not now, for someone like me who's tries to be kind and empathetic and build groups of people together, I'd be doing a disservice to my mom's memory that she would want me to be part of this solution. And I think now is the right time to do that.
What an inspiring answer. If not now, when? And, in your mom's memory, that is beautiful.
Thank you.
So I too am a daughter of a teacher, a public school teacher. And matter of fact, all of my father's sisters, all my aunts on my father's side, they were all teachers as well. And I think that call to action, always trying to inspire people, it is something that is definitely at the core of teachers. So I appreciate you being able to, or trying to bring that to the table. So keeping that in mind, what are the three biggest strengths that you have that you could bring to the table? And how do you see them benefiting your constituents?
So I think, first and foremost is I am the product of a public school education. I went to public schools. I went to a university that was focused on service and in the public sector. And I have that desire to see not only that same level of education I received from my three sons, who are all students in the Owen J. Roberts School District, but for all the students. I went to Cornell University. I have a degree in labor economics and labor relations. And so much of the work I did there was about building people up and building communities up and building the workplace up. And I feel like that gives me a unique perspective in an organization with so many disparate types of people working together towards a goal. And that sort of critical thinking that we did as part of that program, so much of it was about not only coming to the correct decisions, but helping others to see why we should all move in that direction. And so I think that gives me, a little bit of a different perspective than perhaps others. And then in my career, I've spent my entire career dedicated to building communities, whether that be at IBM when I worked in their staffing and talent organization and trying to build a diverse staffing and talent organization for IBM, whether it be my years at the American Cancer Society when I moved into the nonprofit sector, trying to build a community toward ending cancer in Raleigh, North Carolina, which was maybe not, in the tobacco world, the easiest place to do it. And then now my work with Steel River Playhouse in Pottstown. And I get to be part of the organization that is bringing theater and theater education to an underserved community. And I get to be part of an organization that's helping to revitalize Pottstown. And so I spend every day in service of my community and leadership within my community. And I think that's going to translate well to the school board.
Wow, you have three boys. I don't know when you were going to have the time for this.
We figured out, if all goes well, in about a week, I'll have a driver in the house. Knock on wood. So I may have, I have a lot riding on that driver's test, but yeah, it's exciting and they are excited. You know, we talked a lot about as a family, whether or not this was the right time to do it. And, you know, my husband and my three sons really, they recognize that they want good things in our community. So they're all for it.
Oh, that's awesome because, you know, you definitely need your family support.
Absolutely.
And I totally understand having that extra driver. I have a son, he's in college, and with COVID, he was back in the house, and oh my goodness, did I use him. And now he's back. He's at the University of Michigan, and I keep saying to my husband, it's like, oh my gosh, like we have so much to do. Like it's just so amazing. So I'll keep my fingers crossed for you.
I think that's the cruelest, when you have the driver and then the driver moves out of the house and now you're stuck waiting for the second driver. I have to think that that's supreme loss of freedom for everyone.
Yeah, well, my next two are twins, so it's like it's at the same time. So it'll be like the next one and then done, and then they're all gone. So, but I did appreciate your answer because you walk the walk, right? Service University, you have done a lot, and I loved your phrase about building people up because that is definitely what we need, given, like we've mentioned before, the public discourse, the fractured communities. We definitely need someone like you that not only has built the infrastructure, you know, you've also built the people. So I'm excited for your candidacy.
Thank you.
So keeping that in mind, what do you think are the top 2 or 3 priorities that you could accomplish so that your first term would be successful?
So I think, you know, first and foremost in my mind is making sure that every child who walks into an Owen J. Roberts building has the tools that they need to find their success. And that looks in so many different ways. Children like my son, who's a special needs kid, having the tools he needs, both, you know, physical and support to be successful in the class, makes all the difference in what he's experiencing. And I also recognize that in many ways, he has those tools because he had my husband and I advocating for him. And I am cognizant of the fact that not every child has that at home and has that parent who has the means or the time or the ability to advocate or the knowledge to advocate for their child. And so I want to make sure in those gaps that we as a school board and we as administration and as teachers are filling those gaps to make sure that those kids have what they need. And it can be everything, as I said, from, for instance, assistance that a child like my son needs in the classroom to help with his vision deficiencies, or it could be, you know, a child who doesn't have access to a musical instrument at home, you know, and wants to be in the band, you know, making sure that the school district can provide that, making sure that a hungry kid has a meal before they go into the classroom, because hungry children can't learn. So it's making sure that those gaps are filled in a smart way, and in a way that makes sense for both the community and these kids. The second really is, you know, goes back to my days at IBM. I worked so hard to help change our workforce in IBM out in California, and making sure that we kept what was important to us, which was looking like our customer, and being able to better serve our customer when we look like our customer. And when I take that sort of idea and apply it to the school, we need to do a better job of making sure our staff looks like our students. And I think that is something that right off the bat, both the career I've had and the work I've done, not only do I recognize its importance, but it's also something I have experience in achieving. And our children, we all know, will learn better when they see themselves in their classroom, in their curriculum, and in their teachers. And so I'd really like to see that be something that I can hopefully work on and make a change in. And then, you know, we keep going back to that same theme of rebuilding our community. And, you know, the key is communication. The key is doing what can we do to build trust within our community? What can we do to bring everybody back to the same page? And a big part of that is listening before we speak. A big part of that is taking a beat to try to hear the other side, to try to figure out how we can come together, because I do believe we have more that brings us together than takes us apart. And outside voices outside of our community really drive that discourse between us. And so I'd like us to sort of come back together as an OJR community, come back together as a community of neighbors, and do what we can as a board to better communicate and better bring that knowledge and that information to our community, with the hope then that they'll become more invested in what we're doing and we can move forward together.
So there's something that is at the end of my tagline at my email, and it is, you have to Maslow before you bloom. And you mentioned in your answer that, hungry children don't learn. Children that don't feel safe don't learn. And it is like your basic foundational needs have to be met in order for you to learn. And so as a teacher, I really appreciated that answer. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Excuse me. Also, the other thing that resonated in your answer was when you talked about the staff looking like the students. We talk about representation mattering, but I also feel that if you don't have a diverse teaching force, even if your population isn't diverse, always seeing the same sameness doesn't expand your mind. So I do think it's important just to have that representation in teachers and in books and throughout the curriculum, even if your population isn't that diverse, because that is how you expand your mind. That is how you can dream. And when you can dream big, or I guess when you can dream big. And then when you dream big, anything is possible. And I like to put that little thought into my students, is that anything is possible and that they should all dream big. So in Owen J. Roberts, what do you think are the biggest priorities that your community wants you to tackle?
I think our community is yearning for clear answers and clear descriptions, even if they may not like what I have to say. I don't want to be ambiguous. I don't want people to feel like I'm not being clear in my intention or in my answers or in how I want to help and serve my community. And so I think so much of how we can move forward, again, is understanding where we're coming from and what our experiences are that have brought us to this place. For me, I didn't grow up in Owen J. Roberts. My family moved here 15 years ago. We've happily made this our home. We're excited to be here. We love raising our children here. But I've lived all over the country. I've traveled all over the world. I've had some big, wonderful experiences, and I want that for my kids too. I want my kids to have, like what you talked about, that big dream and that big moment to move about the world and hopefully find their way back home sometimes. I want that. And I think there's room for all of us in Owen J. Roberts, those who have been here generationally, those who have raised kids here, whose parents raised them here. I want to honor that. And I want to also make room, though, for those of us who are newer and have a voice for both of us, and hopefully move us closer together.
Yes, and everyone has a seat at the table, and
Right.
everyone's voice should be heard. So I appreciate that. So before I let you go, I'm just wondering if you could let me know one or two things that we wouldn't find out about you if we Googled you or looked you up on LinkedIn.
So I think one thing I don't talk about often is, and it comes up, I think now more modernly as I'm raising teenagers, that I took a gap year in between high school and college. And I think, especially for people of our age who are raising teenagers, it's something I wish I talked about more, because I think so many of us are so conditioned to finish high school, go to college, get a job, the cycle, check off the box. And I am forever grateful for my parents who gave me that option to take that year off. I worked on my first political campaign, a re-election campaign, and I took a few fun classes. I took an astronomy class at the community college, and spent some time with my family that I'm so thankful now as an adult that I got. And it really helped me focus. And when I got to college, it helped me better prepare for what I was going to experience at an intense program. It was an intense program. And so it's something that I'm trying to talk about more, because I think it would benefit a lot of parents like us who are, talking to our kids about what college is going to look like. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I would definitely let my kids consider it if that seems to be the right choice for them.
That is awesome and so unexpected. And you're right, especially where we live, right? So it is about checking off that box and which college did you get into? And, um, you know, especially with how much college costs now, taking some time to really figure out who you are, how you learn, and how a college can best serve you might be something that we all need to think about. That's another perspective. And so I'm glad that that will be at the table. So thanks again for coming out and speaking with me this evening, and good luck in your campaign.
I appreciate it, Dawn. Thank you.